In this video, I'm going to show you how to purchase and set up your own Termageddon license. Please note, this is not legal advice. Termageddon is not a legal service provider, and this video is provided for informational purposes only. To get started, we're going to need to register a Termageddon account. So that can be done by visiting termageddon.com. That's termageddon.com. And in the top right corner of your screen, you should see a purple register button. Go ahead and click the purple register button and fill out this form about yourself. We're going to put in Ron Swanson today. And set a password. All right, when ready, go ahead and register. You want to make sure you put an email that you have access to because you will be confirming after you register. So now that you've registered, you need to head over to your email inbox and look for an email from Termageddon. And in our inbox, we now see that we have a confirm your Termageddon registration email. That is the subject line, and inside the email is a purple confirm email address link. Go ahead and click the confirm email address, and you will be brought to your Termageddon dashboard. In your dashboard, in the top right corner of your screen, you can click Hello Ron, Account Settings in the drop-down, and on the left-hand side, click Payment Information, and then click the purple Update button to enter your credit card information. After you've put in your credit card information, go ahead and click Next. And on the following page, you'll be asked to purchase a license. You can purchase additional licenses if you would like, but just as a reminder, one license includes a set of policies for a website or an application. So in this example, we're going to be setting up one Termageddon license, so I'll keep this as one. And under Choose a Plan, you can choose to do the $10 per month plan, or if you'd like to save 20 bucks a year and not deal with 12 invoices every single year, you can just select the $99 per year plan. And then in the promo code area, if you do have a promo code, be sure to enter it in here and click Apply for a discount on your first payment. And when ready, agree to the terms of service and make payment. And now you'll be brought to your subscription area, and you can scroll down to confirm your subscription, where you'll see the billing cycle, the billing date, and you can also go to the invoice summary area to download a copy of your invoice. So, and that is available with this gray little icon on the right-hand side that I'm hovering over right now. All right, and now let's go ahead and click Dashboard at the top. And we will now begin the process of adding a license and answering some global license information. Now we're going to add a license to your Termageddon account. So make sure you're on your dashboard page, and in the purple bar on the right-hand side, click the white Add License button, and here you're going to want to name your license. You can name it whatever you wish it to say. I like to put the domain name because we're going to be building a license for this website. This name will not be disclosed within your website policies. It's just used for internal purposes. And then the next section is copy policies. This is only available if you have existing policies in place for another license. Since we don't in this example, we're just going to leave it as no, I'll start fresh. And when ready, click Add License. Now that the license has been created, we need to go to the license status area of the license and click Continue Setup. And here we'll be brought to a global set of questions about the business. So for this example, we're going to say it's a website, and we're going to name it by the website URL. Who owns this website? In this example, I'm a company. I'll say I'm an LLC. And where was the company formed? For this example, I'll say the United States, and that we were formed in Delaware, and that we are a limited liability company. Where would you like to resolve disputes? This is really just whatever is most convenient for you, as this is what brings people to your turf rather than you having to go to theirs. And since I'm located in Chicago, I'm going to put in the United States, I'm going to select Illinois, and I'm going to put Cook County. And what is the email that users can use to contact you? This email will be disclosed within your website policies, so make sure you put an email address that you're comfortable disclosing within your website policies. For this example, I'm going to put info@deepspacehans.com, as that's a generic email that I receive in my regular inbox. All right, and when ready, go ahead and click the purple Save button, and you've now completed your global license information for your license. The next step will be to create your privacy policy. And to do that, we need to answer the privacy policy questionnaire. So the next step will be to scroll down until you see a gray Add Policy box. Click that gray Add Policy box, and then click Privacy Policy. You are now in your privacy policy questionnaire. The first page of the privacy policy questionnaire is intended to help you figure out what privacy laws apply to you. And based on how you answer page 1, this will dictate the remainder of the questions, as we only ask the questions needed to provide the disclosures that are required under each privacy law you need to comply with. I do want to remind you, Termageddon is not a legal service provider, and as I walk you through this questionnaire, I want you to note that this is not legal advice. This is for informational purposes only. All right, so for this example, we're going to say that this license is for a website that does business throughout the US, Canada, UK, Ireland, Australia, really anywhere for that matter, offering, let's say, online courses. So do you do business in any of the US states? Well, since I could transact really anywhere, I'm going to select all states for this example. And do you collect the personal information of residents of any US states? I'm going to select all as well. As a good example here would be someone in Wisconsin submitting a form or making a purchase through my website. Do you have annual gross revenues more than $25 million? No. Do you annually buy, receive, sell, or share the personal information of 50,000 or more California consumers, households, or devices? No. Do you derive 50% or more of your annual revenue from selling the personal information of California consumers? No. And do your vendors or clients require you to comply with the California Consumer Privacy Act? I'm going to also put no. All 4 of these questions will populate if you say yes to doing business in California on page 1 and you're a for-profit entity. If you say yes to any one of these, this will require the California Consumer Privacy Act disclosures, but since I wrote no to all of them, I will not be answering those particular questions. Do you offer goods or services to residents of the European Union or United Kingdom? I'm going to say yes. Do you monitor the behavior of residents of the United Kingdom or the European Economic Area? This is a good example with like Google Analytics. Because I, in theory, could get traffic from there, I'm going to say yes. And do you offer goods or services to residents of the United Kingdom? I'll say yes as well. And then do you monitor the behavior of residents of the United Kingdom? I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that as well. Do you collect the personal information of Canadians? Just like that example I gave earlier with the Wisconsin example, I have an e-commerce website and I would welcome a transaction from Canada, so I'm going to say yes to that. And do you collect the personal information of Australians? I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that, and that I do business in Australia. Now, if you answered yes or no to these questions based on your own business, they may or may not match how I filled out this questionnaire. But I filled out this questionnaire so that in this tutorial, you will see all the possible questions you're going to see that Termageddon asks. So when you move on to the following pages, if you do not see the questions that you see within this tutorial, not to worry. It's just because you don't have to make those particular disclosures. So this completes page 1 of the privacy policy questionnaire, and I'm going to click next now and be brought to the next page. Page 2 of the Privacy Policy Questionnaire is intended to help you identify all the pieces of personal information your website is collecting, how you collect that information, and with whom you share that with. Depending on how many privacy laws you need to comply with that you identified on page 1, you may or may not see a lot of information on the right-hand column, or maybe you see very little. This just depends on what disclosures you're required to make. Whatever the case may be, this example should help walk you through how to use this page effectively. So it all starts on the left-hand side, where this is where you identify all the pieces of personal information your website collects. And I like to start this off with a contact form, as most modern websites have a contact form on their contact page. So if you have a contact page with a form, perhaps it's asking for name, emails, and phone numbers. In this example, that's what I'm going to select. So we already have names selected on the left-hand side. I'm also going to select email address. I'm also going to select phone number. And let's say that this website also has Google Analytics installed. Google is a very popular website tracking tool that provides websites with analytics. And for having Google Analytics installed, you need to make sure to select IP address, device information, and scroll on down until you see information regarding your interactions with the website. Now, if you currently or ever plan to run social media or search engine advertisements where you're paying for exposure and driving traffic to your website through like ads on Facebook or Instagram or Google or really anywhere, if you're tracking those users on your website, you will want to select that you may collect information regarding your interactions with the advertisements. I like putting this there even if I'm not currently doing it, but I'm about to do it in the future or may do it in the future. I like just adding it now. All right, and then this covers most just standard websites. If you have an e-commerce website, you may also say that you collect billing address, shipping address, as well as credit card information. In this example, I'm going to say that I have an e-commerce websites, but all I'm doing is selling online courses. So I'm only going to select billing address as I don't collect shipping address, and I bring the user to a third-party financial transaction processor. So I'm never actually collecting the credit card information. It's the third-party transactor, so I'm not going to select those items. All right, so now we have to identify now that we've identified everything on the left-hand side in terms of personal information the website's collecting, we now on a per item basis need to discuss what we do with that information. So I'm going to start this off with name, and to do that, you just need to click the edit button for name, and you'll see name is listed on the right-hand column. And for purposes for why I collect this information, I'm going to say, well, I have a contact form, so I have you submit your name so I can perform services and provide customer service. I'm also going to say that I may collect this name for the purposes of marketing and advertising in case I plan to, in the future, send email newsletters to people. I'm also going to select that I may ask people to participate in surveys and contests, just as a general catch-all. I may ask people to leave their feedback and so forth. Because in this example I have an e-commerce website, I'm also going to say that I collect names to process and fulfill orders and transactions and process payments, and that I may also collect name for the purposes of enforcing our terms of service and verifying customer information. These are two general catch-alls. And for enforcing your terms of service, meaning you may address someone by their name when enforcing your terms of service, and verifying customer information would just be like if someone fills out your contact form on your website and they're already a customer and you need them to reply and confirm their name or something like that. So again, those are just two general catch-alls. So that's how I see name being shared. So I'm going to minimize that accordion. And I'm going to then open up my next option. Again, you may not see this depending on what privacy laws you're seeking to provide disclosures for. But this is what is the source of the information? Well, I'm only getting name by information submitted by the consumer. So that's the item I'm going to select. What I mean here is that someone had to take the time to type out and submit their name to me. So that's why I'm selecting that this is information submitted by the consumer. And when I go to the next section, what's the legal basis under which you process the information? I'm going to select that the users provided consent to the processing of their information, as I'll have a checkbox for them to agree to the privacy policy, but just in general, submitting their name is a form of consent. But again, it's best to have the checkbox. I'm also going to say processing is necessary to perform a contract with the user because of the e-commerce component of my website. And then do you share this data with third parties? I'm going to say yes. And in this example, I'm going to say that I have a WordPress website. Because WordPress stores backups of form submissions, for most forms, I should say, I'm going to say that I may share this data with my content management system, which would be WordPress, so I can manage our interactions with them. And because I hire a third-party developer to manage my website, in this example, I'm going to say that parties that need to operate the website may see that data, as well as hosting providers. I'm now going to go and select email service providers, maybe a third party that I share names with, because when a form gets submitted, me, the business owner, I receive an email in my inbox with that contact's details. So therefore, my website has shared data with my email service provider. I'm also going to say that I may share this data with email marketing vendors to market to people via email, just to acknowledge the fact that I may use a third-party email marketing tool to send email newsletters to people. And then last but not least, because I use a third-party CRM, otherwise known as a customer management system, I'm going to say that I may share this data with my customer management system. All right. So now that I've identified all the third parties with whom I'm sharing data with, I'm going to minimize this, complete this piece of information, and I'm going to skip on down to email address, and I'm going to click the edit button here. And why do I collect email? Well, I'm going to load up all the same answers I just did for name. So I did that by selecting the copy the same selections from, and I selected name, and it loaded up all the answers. And down towards on the right-hand column at the very bottom, I'm going to click complete this piece of information. And now I get to choose the next piece of information I want to complete. And I'm going to select phone number, and I'm going to load up the exact same answers I just did for name. Now, maybe you do or do not share a phone number with your email marketing vendor, for example, and you can unselect it if you'd like. I like selecting all just in case I ever do share that data with those third-party tools. So I like just loading up all the answers I selected. I'm going to complete that piece of information. And now I'm going to scroll up and go to billing address. Page 2 of the Privacy Policy Questionnaire is all about helping you identify the pieces of personal information your website is collecting, what you're doing with that information, and possibly additional details that are required under the privacy laws you're looking to provide disclosures for that you identified on page 1. So to use this page properly, work with the left-hand side first. So on the left-hand side, you want to identify all the pieces of personal information your website collects. And because most websites have a contact form on the contact page, that's where I'll start with this example. So in my example, I'll say that I have a contact form on my contact page asking people to submit their name, email, and phone number. So I have selected on the left-hand side, name, email, phone number. In this example, I also have Google Analytics installed, so I will select that I may collect IP address, device information, and scroll on down to information regarding your interactions with the website. I also may run social media or search engine advertisements in the future where I drive traffic to my website and track the users that are visiting us from the ads I'm running. If I plan to do that, I'm also going to select that I may collect information regarding your interactions with advertisements. Now, in this example, I mentioned that this is an e-commerce website selling online courses, And because I'm not actually shipping anything, I will not select shipping address, but I will select billing address. And because I'm using a third-party website to process the transactions, I'm not actually collecting the credit card information. It's the third-party transactor that's collecting it. I will not select that I'm collecting the credit card information. Okay, so now that you've identified all the pieces of personal information that your website's collecting through forms and behind the scenes like tracking pixels and analytics, I'm now on a per item basis going to discuss what I need to do or what I do with that information. So I'll start here with name. I'm going to click the edit button and I see on the right hand side, I'm now filling out information for name. And under purposes, I'm going to say that I collect name for the purposes of performing service and customer service to cover the form I have on the website. And since I may send marketing newsletters to the person sometime in the future, I'll say that I collect it for marketing and advertising purposes. And I'm also going to select that I may ask people to participate in surveys or contests. Maybe I'll ask people to provide us feedback or something like that in the future. And in this example, I mentioned it's an e-commerce website, so I will say that I collect this information for the purposes of processing payments and processing or fulfilling orders. And I will also select that I may collect name to enforce our terms of service and verify customer information is two general catch-alls. An example being that you may use someone's name if there's an issue with their relationship to you in the website. So I would address them by name, thus enforcing my terms of service. And verifying customer information example would be a customer fills out the form on the website and I address them by their name, or maybe I need them to verify their account by confirming their name. Again, those two are general catch-alls. Now that I've identified all the purposes for why I collect name, I'm going to minimize that section, and then I'm going to go to the next section. I see that I'm asked to provide the source of the information. You may not see this. Again, this is all just dependent on how you answered page 1 of the privacy policy questionnaire. Since I have this, I have to answer it. And how do I collect? What's the source for how I collect name? Well, this is information submitted by the consumer because someone somewhere had to take the time to type out their name and submit it to me for me to receive their name. I'm now going to minimize that and go to the next section. What's the legal basis under which you process the information? And I'm going to say that the users provided consent to the processing of their information, and that processing is necessary to perform a contract with the user to cover the fact that they filled out the form on my contact page or possibly made a transaction on the website. And then do I share this data with third parties? I'm going to say yes. Data gets shared quite often, especially things like name. And I'll start this off with the fact that when a form gets submitted on a website, that typically triggers an email that gets sent to the business owner's email address with the contact's details. Therefore, the website is sharing data with email service providers, because that is your inbox, assuming you didn't build your own, assuming you didn't develop your own inbox. So we'll say that we share this data with email service providers to manage our interactions with them. And because I may upload names to my email marketing solution, I will say that we may collect or we may share this data with email marketing vendors to market to you via email. That's like Constant Contact, HubSpot, Active Campaign, stuff like that. And in this example, I'll say that I have a WordPress website, and WordPress websites often store backups of form submissions in the back end of the website, just as a preventative measure in case you never received the lead. So I will say that we may share this data with our content management system, aka WordPress, to manage our interactions with them. And that we may have third-party web developers accessing the back end of the website, so technically they may be able to see that data as well. So we'll want to select that we may share this data with parties that need to operate the website, as well as hosting providers to manage our interactions with you. I'm also going to select that we may share this data with financial transaction processors to process transactions. And then last but not least, if you have a customer management system, otherwise known as a CRM, some examples are HubSpot or Salesforce. If you are using a CRM, you'll want to select that you may share this data with your CRM. This covers how I see most people sharing names. So I'm going to now minimize this, and I'm going to complete this piece of information, and I'll be brought down to the next incomplete option. And I'm going to skip on down to email address, and by clicking the edit button on the left-hand side, And you'll see I'm now editing the email address. And why do we collect email? Well, I collect it for the same reasons why I'm collecting name, to provide you with services, customer service, and so forth. Now I'm going to skip on up to why do we collect phone number, and I'm going to load up all the same answers we did for name. And then I'm going to go to billing address, and I'm going to load up all the same answers we did for name as well. A handful of people will not actually share data like billing address with like third-party like customer management systems and so forth. So you can, open this up and unselect those items. But for this example, I'm going to keep it simple and just keep it as name. All right, upon completing that information, I'm brought to the IP address. Now, IP address gets collected all the time. It gets collected usually with form submissions. So I'm going to load up all the answers we already did for name because IP address usually gets collected behind the scenes to prevent like spammers from filling out forms and stuff like that. Then I'm going to select this again and click None so that I can customize this particular section because IP address also gets collected for additional reasons such as analytics. If you're using like a Google Analytics or another type of analytics tool, it also may be collected to count ad impressions and verify position and quality of ad impressions to cover any sort of social media or search engine marketing you're doing. And then we may also collect IP address to protect against malicious, deceptive, fraudulent, or illegal activity. So I'm going to select that as well. I'm now going to minimize this section, go to the next section. What's the source for how you collect IP address? Well, this is not information submitted by the consumer because no one ever takes the time to fill out a form and type out their IP address. That never really happens. IP address is collected behind the scenes through tracking pixels and the use of cookies. What's the legal basis under which you process the information? I'll just leave this as the users provided consent to the processing of their information. And what categories of third parties do you share this information with? I'm going to select advertising networks to provide you with ads. I'm going to scroll down and click social networks to provide you with ads. And these two will cover any sort of social search engine or social media marketing that you do, where you're paying ads and bringing traffic to your website and tracking those users on your site. Next, I'm going to say that I may share this data with data analytics providers to analyze your interactions with our website, and that would cover sharing data with a tool like Google Analytics. Now that I've completed this piece of information, I'm going to minimize this section, click Complete Information. Why do I collect device information? I'm going to load up the same answers we did for IP address. Complete it. And brings us down. Why do you collect information regarding your interactions with the website? I'm going to load up all the answers we did to IP address. And then why do we collect information regarding your interactions with advertisements? I'm going to load up the same reasons why we collect IP address. All right, now that we've answered all the items on the left-hand side and selected all the answers, and again, these are all based on what privacy laws you need to comply with on page 1 that were identified. Now that I've completed all that, I do have one final question on this page. Are you required to collect some or all of this personal information by an Australian law, court order, or tribunal order? I'm going to select no, which is the popular answer, but I just want to remind you that each question has a question mark that you can click on that will provide you more information on each and every question. All right, so we have finalized page 2 of the Privacy Policy Questionnaire, and we will now head into page 3, which are answering the remaining questions. Now that you've generated your privacy policy, you will need to embed the embed code into the body of your privacy policy page on your website. And if you're doing this yourself, you can click the instructions area right here to learn how to embed the codes on popular platforms like WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, and more. If you are using a third-party web developer, you will want to click Users on the left-hand side, and then inside there is a purple Share button, and you'll be able to enter the email address of your web developer and share that license with your web developer. Whenever you share a license with someone, they will receive an automated email alerting them that they've been issued access to your license. but it might be nice to also just send them an email letting them know that you shared the license with them. One final note, make sure that you use the embed code for your privacy policy, and that's it for your privacy policy page. A lot of people try to put all of their policies on one web page, which is considered non-compliant, and you can learn more about why that is the case by clicking the Here's Why link, which will take you to an article. But simply put, you want to put one embed code per policy page. So this embed code for the privacy policy would go onto the privacy policy embed code page. Last but not least, I will note that you do have the ability to override your policy. Overriding a policy means that you're going to be customizing that section of a particular policy to have it say whatever you wish it to say. If you customize your policy, we will no longer be able to automatically update it, but we'll still notify you when changes are required for that particular section and provide you a copy to review to consider using with whatever you previously customized it to be. This completes the privacy policy questionnaire, and in the next section, I'll be showing you how to create a terms of service. In this section of the tutorial, we will be creating a terms of service. Now, users may be at different parts of our dashboard. Perhaps you just followed this tutorial and completed creating your privacy policy. Technically, you can just go to policies on the left-hand side and be brought to the same location I'm going to bring all users to, but for the sake of simplicity for us all, I'm going to say go ahead and click Dashboard at the top, and under Licenses, click your license, and now you're in your license dashboard. If you have not created a Terms of Service yet, you will not have a Terms of Service box yet. But if you do see a Terms of Service box, this is a privacy policy box example. If you see one of these boxes and it says Terms of Service, go ahead and click Edit Policy Details. If you, however, have not created a Terms of Service yet, you can do so by clicking the gray Add Policy box and then clicking Terms of Service. The first question of the Terms of Service questionnaire is to see if you offer an e-commerce component to your website. In this tutorial, we're going to say yes. However, if you do not offer e-commerce, you can skip to the next section in this video and select no here and click next. Again, for this example, we'll be saying yes. And we know that we offer digital products in this example because we were talking about online courses. And the pricing is listed on the website for this example. And does this price include taxes and other fees? I'm going to say yes to because all fees are disclosed before checkout is completed. And do I work with individual consumers or businesses or both? I'm going to select both for this example. And can users make purchases right on the website? I will say yes, and that a third party is the processor of the transaction. And for this example, I will say PayPal. What payment methods are accepted? I will select all the major debit and credit cards. And are buyers able to cancel their purchase prior to download? I am going to say no, as that helps protect me. And then, do you want to reserve the right to cancel the customer's purchase? I would say yes to this example, just in case, for whatever reason, I don't want to provide my product to a particular person. And I'll say that I have the right to cancel their purchase prior to them downloading the product. And that I would notify them immediately if I were to cancel their purchase, and I would issue them a full refund if I were to cancel their purchase. Upon clicking Next, I'm brought to some more questions about the e-commerce component of my website. And the next question is, do you offer refunds? I'm going to say no here, as that helps protect me. And if I ever do have someone that asks for a refund and has a compelling reason, I will just give them a refund in this example. Do you ask your customers to provide an advance payment? No. Do you ask your customers to provide a deposit? No. Do you offer a warranty on the items or services that you display? Most people say no here, but you can say yes and say they will be of satisfactory quality or something like that. What remedies are available to the purchasers? Because this is an online course, I'm just going to say none. And I'll click Next. Now I'm brought to the subscription area of the website. And since I have an e-commerce website, we ask the question, do you offer subscriptions? Most people say no here, but if you do offer a subscription, it's important to select yes and then discuss the terms. I'm going to say that I have a monthly plan or a yearly plan. So I write out 1 month or 1 year. Does the subscription renew automatically? I'll say yes, every 1 month or every 1 year, depending on your subscription plan. And how can the customer cancel the automated renewals? I'll say through the website as well as email, and I'll put info at my domain name. How much notice must the customer give of cancellation prior to the automated renewal date? I like to put like a day or two just so that I can go in and cancel prior to the automatic renewal occurring. But if they can do this through their account within the website, you may just want to select immediately. Can a customer rescind their subscription, meaning that they've signed up for a subscription and like within a few days they're just like not happy about it and they don't want to offer it, or they don't want to continue with the subscription? You can say yes, which you can give them even a refund if they have like buyer's remorse. But in this example, I will say no. I will note there are some consumer laws where you may be required to say yes, so just keep that in mind, and you can always click the question mark if you'd like to learn more. Is there a minimum purchase that the customer must make for the subscription? I'm going to say no. I don't require any like upfront payment to get the subscription going. And do you offer a free trial? I'm also going to say no to. This completes the e-commerce and subscription area of the Terms of Service questionnaire. And upon clicking next, we'll be brought into the final questions for the Terms of Service. The final page of the Terms of Service questionnaire are a series of questions that, when answered, will help generate a Terms of Service that will be intended to help limit your liability as a business owner or person. So for the first question, can users create accounts? Most people say no here. However, if you have an e-commerce component, that's a really good example of when you need to say yes, because people will have an account where they can manage their e-commerce transactions. How can a user terminate an account? This depends on just how your website's set up, but most people select both of these options by contacting us and through the website. Can users make comments or create content on your website? I'm going to say yes here. And then there are certain types of content that's prohibited from being posted. A really good example of comments is if you have like a blog area where people can make comments on your website. Now, as for comments I want to prohibit, I'm going to select all these items. And feel free to read through each one and decide if you want to prohibit that, for whether or not you want to prohibit it from being on your website or not. Does your website contain links to third-party websites? Yes, my social media links are a really good example. Maybe I have a resources area with third-party links. Third-party links is very commonly yes. In what year did you publish your website? I'll select 2021 with the idea that I'm about to launch my new website. Who should the user contact if they believe you're infringing on the intellectual property or that someone else is infringing on your intellectual property? This is almost always the business owner. So I'll put in our fake business owner name and details here. Now, you will see that we ask people to provide a phone number and address. This is because, I'm going to write this out real quick. So this is because this is a requirement under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So we are asking this particular question to provide what is known as a DMCA notice, which more or less says, please let us know if we are using any material that's not our property on our website and providing all this information. A DMCA notice, to be complete, has to include a phone number and address. However, if for any reason you do not want to include your address, you can put NA here, but I will note that that would then be an incomplete DMCA notice. So something you need to balance out, especially if you're like, just getting going with your business, you're working from home or something like that. Do you subscribe to an industry or trade code of conduct? Most people say no here. If you are a part of an association or trade code of conduct that you have to comply with, you can list the names here. A really popular example is like real estate agents. They have to subscribe to the National Association of Realtors here in the United States. So you would type in National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics and put a link to that code of ethics. But again, for this example, we will say no. How will you notify users of changes to this terms of service? For this example, we'll say by posting the updated terms of service to this website, as that's the service Termageddon provides, and that we will provide no immediate notice of any changes. And now that your terms of service questionnaire is fully answered, go ahead and click the Submit button. Upon clicking Submit on your terms of service questionnaire, you will be brought to the embed code page. The embed code is what needs to be copied and pasted into the body of your terms of service page. And if you're doing this yourself, you can click Here are instructions, which will provide instructions on how to implement the code on popular platforms such as WordPress, Squarespace, Shopify, and more. You want to make sure to put this terms of service embed code on its own separate page, and that is due to compliance reasons, and we provide an article as to why right here. Last but not least, if you're using a web developer to implement the codes into your website, you can click the Users tab on the left-hand side and share the license with your developer by clicking the Share License button, entering the developer's email address, and then clicking Share License again. An automated email will be sent to the web developer if you do this, letting them know they now have access to your license, but it's also nice to just send a separate email to your web developer letting them know they can now access your policies. And on a final note, I will note that we have an override policy feature. When you click that, this is a section that will allow you to customize any section of your terms of service to have it say whatever you wish it to say. If you customize a section of your terms of service, we will no longer automatically update that section since you customized it, but we'll still notify you when we have recommended new changes with suggested new copy for you to consider. This completes the terms of service generator and completes this tutorial. I'm always around if you have any questions. You can email me, hans@termageddon.com, HANS@termageddon.com if you have any questions. And thank you so much for choosing us to be your website policy generator provider. And yeah, thank you for your business. Reach out anytime.